So a couple of months ago, we did a field visit at one of our franchisees' location. If you don't know what a field visit is, it's when somebody from head office comes down to your site to make sure that the quality is being maintained, because that does affect the network. And when this person came down to do the field visit, the class was not running well at all. The coach looked disinterested. The coach wasn't wearing the appropriate uniform. There was basketballs all over the court. There was equipment scattered. There was no order in the class. And it wasn't a good experience for the parent at all. Now, when I heard this, I had to have a conversation to the franchisee about this level of service. And as you can know, if emotions get high and egos get in the way, things can get very ugly very quickly in franchising. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the ugly side of franchising that nobody talks about and what you can do as a franchisee if you ever get into this situation. Let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to Courtside Conversations. My name's Emile, founder and owner of Little Boomers Basketball, and it's a pleasure to be your host today. Wherever you're watching today's episode, I hope you're having a booming day, and yes, the pun is intended. My journey to entrepreneurship started on May 1st, 2018 when I launched my first basketball program with 9 kids enrolled. Today, thousands of kids across Australia are thriving in our programs, all thanks to the commitment and passion of our incredible franchisees. This podcast is here to give you real, straightforward, no BS insights into business, entrepreneurship, and what it's like to own a franchise. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So in franchising, there are 3 most common legal issues that continuously to occur. Have a guess. If you could think about what the top 3 legal issues in franchising are, what would you say they are? Take a time to think about your answer. I'll give you the first one. The first one is misrepresentation during the sale of the business. What this means is the franchisor promised or guaranteed or implied that you're going to make X amount of revenue and you don't make X amount of revenue. Franchisee comes into the door. You told me I was going to make this. You told me I was going to Legal battle. Misrepresentation of the facts. The second one is a breach of the franchise agreement. That was a story I just explained to you. In the franchise agreement, the franchisor outlines the way of doing things in terms of quality, in terms of standard. If the franchisee does not meet that level of standard, that is a breach of the franchise agreement. And finally, the third one is unlawful termination. During this process, the franchisor terminates the franchisee. The franchisee says, this is not fair, you can't terminate me, I didn't get any notices, I didn't get any warning, boom, legal battles. Those are the 3 most common legal issues in franchising. And all of this can be avoided in 1 or 2 simple ways, and I'm going to go over those in a second. Now, I believe, before I go into it, the problem with all of this is the be your own boss myth. In franchising, when we're trying to sell a franchise, you see it plastered everywhere. Be your own boss, getting business for yourself, work on your dime, not on somebody else's dime. And there's this continuous message about being your own boss. So somebody that isn't equipped with how franchising works thinks, you know what? Be my own boss. I can do it my way. I can do it like this. They come into a franchise not knowing that the be your own boss is true to an extent, but not in many others. Yes, you are your own boss in the sense where you've got staff under you, right? You're making revenue, you're making profit. But in a franchising, you're not your own boss in the sense where you can pick and choose which suppliers you want to go with. Pick and choose, you know what, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it my way. That's not franchising, because the franchise agreement lays out the exact way that you need to do it, and you have to follow those guidelines. That's where these breaches and these misunderstandings and these issues happen, because the franchisee comes in with an impression that I'm my own boss, I can do it this way. And then the franchisor says, whoa, we don't do it like that. It says here in the agreement, but I thought I'm my own boss. And that's where I believe the misunderstanding is. And all of this can be avoided if you just do your homework beforehand and understand how franchising works. And I've got some other videos that explain the role of the franchisor and the role of the franchisee. But just understand and don't get fluffed out by that BS, be your own boss. It's only true to a certain extent. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Just two quick things. If you're finding value from today's episode, if you can subscribe to our channel and share it to a friend, that would mean the world to me. I'm trying to make what is a very confusing space like franchising easy to understand so people don't make the wrong decisions later on in their life. And if you know anybody that might want to become a Little Boomers basketball franchisee, they love working with kids, they love sports and basketball, and they want to make a difference to their community, there's some links below that you can share with them. Enjoy the rest of today's episode. So when a dispute arises like the one I mentioned in my previous story, this is what a healthy process looks like. Say for example, a franchisee isn't meeting the level of standards during a field visit like that example. What a healthy process is the franchisor or the field support officer or the operations manager will call up the franchisee in a respectful and professional manner. You know, hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing? Good. You know, we came down to a field visit and we noticed XYZ wasn't done and the quality really wasn't there. And I'm calling you to let you know that we really need to get it back up to there. These are the exact things that we saw and we need to get this fixed in a timely manner because it's important that we're offering the best possible service to our customers, right? Respectful. They don't target the franchisee. How could you do that? What's wrong with you? Emotions are calm. The franchisee processes this information and acts on it in a timely manner and resolves the problem. Done. Case closed. That is the perfect scenario. That's a healthy scenario. The franchisor communicates properly, respectfully, outlines exactly what they need to do to get it back to that standard, and the franchisee takes what they've said and actions it in a timely manner. Unfortunately, and this is based on my experience because I have to deal with these situations, that's not what happens most of the time. I'm going to tell you what actually happens a lot of the times. This is the ugly side of franchising. So in that situation that I described earlier, if I or somebody in head office, what tends to happen is the franchisor just breaches them automatically. You've got a breach notice for that, right? No warning, no communication, no dialogue between the franchisee and the franchisee, boom, you just get a breach notice right now. And that's not really, in my opinion, respectful from the franchisor. I think communication during these times needs to be very high and there needs to be a conversation done before a breach notice comes in the mail or comes in the email, because that's just really, it's not fair on the franchisee. They need to have notice. I think a discussion has to be done beforehand. So what some franchisors will do is just, boom, breach notice. So then what do you think the franchisee does when they unexpectedly just get a breach notice? Of course, emotions come in. What the heck? Why have I got this breach notice? Boom. You know what? I challenge that breach. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. So all of a sudden now, because communication wasn't open, franchisee pushes back now, and now they challenge that breach. So then what happens? Then the lawyers come involved. The franchisor has their legal representative and the franchisee has their legal representative. All of a sudden, the discussion now isn't between the franchisor and franchisee, it's between the lawyers. And guess what the lawyers want? What do you think they want? Every minute is docked and paid. So do you think it's in the lawyer's best interest to drag this on a little bit more? Be smart. What do you think? Of course. So now we've got money involved. Lawyers are going back and forth. Bills are going to be raised because every time you respond, it's going to cost $1,500, $2,000. So now you've got legal matters in, right? So what happens if the two lawyers are going at it and there's still no solution? Then we move into mediation. Do you remember back in school when two kids got in trouble and you got into the principal's office and you're there and the other person's there and the principal's trying to talk to you and talk to the other person and mediating the discussions between you and the person you just had a fight with at school? That's exactly what mediation is. What happens is somebody that's third party, unrelated to the franchisor, unrelated to the franchisee, comes in, sits down with the two parties and tries to resolve the situation based on a third party and tries to have the two parties come closer to a resolution. And if they do, awesome. If they don't and both parties still can't agree, then that's when it moves to the court. Proceedings will go to the legal courts, and that's when the thousands of dollars, start to rack up and the money starts to rack up. All of this, in my opinion, could have been avoided if there was open, clear and respectful communication between the franchisor and the franchisee, and if both parties moved their egos and moved their emotions to the side. Unfortunately, The franchisor can become very protective because, the franchisee is potentially damaging their brand and they can come down hard on them. Whilst the franchisee, I didn't get any notice. No, I'm challenging that. So what needs to happen, guys, if you are to avoid this ugly side of franchisee, in my opinion, I think all of these legal battles can be avoided. There needs to be dialogue. Dialogue between the franchisor head office and the franchisee. There needs to be clear dialogue, respectful communication, especially when emotions are high, and just put your emotions to the side. Put your egos to the side. It's best you come up to a solution and you swallow your pride rather than going down the legal battles, because the legal battles is not only expensive, but believe me when I say this, talking from experience, it's emotionally draining. Going back and forth, letter to letter, it can become a very emotionally draining task. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode where I broke down the ugly side of franchising. When you come into a franchise network, it is going to happen. Standards are always going to drop. There's going to be situations where you and the franchisor don't see eye to eye on the same thing. It's important that during these times, have open, clear, respectful dialogue. Don't be shy to talk up. I'll see you in the next episode.